Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today I would like to announce that the Kingdom of Norwick and the Princedom of Moorland have had their membership of the Empire of Stomaria revoked. So before anyone gets too excited, I would like to stress now, and I think I will reiterate further down the line, that practically speaking, this hasn't changed anything regarding the developments and the expansion and the progress of Stomaria or the wider empire. Indeed, Mika of Norwick and Alexander of Moorland are still Stomarian citizens, and they will remain as such for as long as they choose to. The only real difference that this is going to make, the only real impact this is going to have, is that their name, the Kingdom of Norwick, and the name, the Princedom of Moorland, and their respective flags will no longer be featured on our website, and that is going to be the beginning and the end of the matter, really. And this is fundamentally the problem, is that they have just become names on our website. They don't add any value to our community, and I want to use this video just to highlight the reasons and the rationale for this decision, because ultimately it is my decision as the Emperor of Stomaria, the Emperor of the Empire of Stomaria, to determine whether or not a member state remains a member state. And even though we did have an imperial court meeting about this just yesterday, where there was no objection whatsoever to this proposal, to the proposal that we revoke the membership of Norwick and Moorland, the simple fact is that they have not been genuine member states for some time now. And again, I just want to use this video as a way to expand on that a bit further. So in the case of Norwick, they actually became an observer state of the Empire of Stomaria in October 2021, and they were the first observer state that we ever had. So this was a major milestone for us. And even though that Norwick is based in New Zealand, so literally the other side of the world, we did have hopes and aspirations that going forward we would be able to integrate them more directly into the Empire of Stomaria as time went on. But unfortunately, the last correspondence that we had from Queen Mika of Norwick was in the same month that they joined, in October 2021. And even though that we have reached out to them a few times since then to try and get them back on board, in fact the last message that I sent was a few weeks ago, I think, in sort of early February this year, just to explain that we are going to be looking to review the member states that we have within the Empire of Stomaria and determine whether or not these member states are going to be a good fit for us going forward, or whether or not it's just a case of letting them go. And we've never had any kind of response from them in any shape or form. But in the case of Moorland, we were a lot more optimistic with them, because they were only based in Jersey, which comparatively speaking is only a stone's throw away from where we're actually based. And so we thought we'd be able to integrate Moorland into the Empire of Stomaria relatively quickly. Now, they actually became an observer state of the Empire of Stomaria in March 2022, and they got off to a flying start. They had their own YouTube channel, and they were putting out videos, they were putting up posts, they were contributing to the discussions, to the conversation. They were supporting financially Stomaria itself. In fact, it was so significant that we actually appointed Alexander as a Lord of Stomaria in recognition for his contributions to our nation, and he remains a Lord of Stomaria to this day. And that's why there's a very unusual twist with Moorland in particular, because even though they were very heavily active for a few months, this only lasted until about July 2022, when for personal reasons he had to take a step back from it all. Now, this isn't an issue in itself, but that correspondence issue that I had with Norwick then became an issue with Moorland, in the sense that from July to December, it was completely dead. There was no conversations whatsoever happening on that front. And then even since December 2022 to now, it's only been very, very sporadic, months sometimes in between conversations, and certainly it's very difficult to get any kind of meaningful conversation going. In fact, one of the last conversations I had with Alexander of Moorland was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think. I actually gave him a call, and we spoke on the phone for a little while. I asked how he was doing, what he was up to, what was happening. We discussed this issue that we were having with Moorland not being as fully engaged as it could be. And we did want Alexander to be a part of the community that we were trying to establish, because we thought he had potential. But the issue was, we thought that Moorland itself was being too much of a demand for him. There was too much to think about with establishing Moorland. So one of the suggestions that was floated was that Moorland simply be dissolved and Alexander simply become a Lord of Stomaria full-time. We would find him in land, he would be able to govern it, and hopefully that would take some of the pressure off him, and he'd be able to focus a bit more on that instead of worrying about trying to establish an entire new entity within the Empire of Stomaria itself. Now, with that phone conversation, I said I'd give him a sort of week or so to think about it. We arranged a call for the following Friday, I think it was. I called him, no answer, sent him a message, no answer, sent him a message a week later, no answer. And so it's just getting to the point now where I just can't keep going on like this, because I need people who are going to be reliable and trustworthy if they're going to be representing nations within the Empire of Stomaria. I can't have a haphazard crew. I can't have people just disappearing for weeks or months at a time. I understand and I appreciate that there's obviously going to be times where people can't immediately respond to emails or messages or texts or phone calls or get involved in every activity we have going. But for going, weeks and months, seemingly without end, with only token gesture responses, that's not a good way for me to be able to try to establish a genuine community and a genuine empire. A nation building project like this requires people to be committed, and if they're not committed, and as Prince Alexander of Moorland actually told me in the last phone call, his heart just wasn't in it. And he told me that point blank. He said he was, just had to focus on other things, which is fine. But then you can't expect to maintain the same level of treatment as other member states of the empire, because it's just not fair. There are many member states or prospective member states that have applied to join Stomaria, and they've been turned away because I wasn't convinced of their commitment. So I can't have member states within the Empire of Stomaria simply falling short of the high standards that we've set ourselves. And this is ultimately what it's come down to. Because at the end of the day, I have individual Stomarian citizens who are far more active and far more invested in the development of Stomaria and its empire than either Mika or Alexander. So why are Mika and Alexander so special? Neither of them represent an actual community. They are the sole citizens, as far as I'm aware, of those nations, of those member states. And I have said this before, what would stop me from simply telling 10, 20, 30, 40, or however many Stomarian citizens to go off, come up with a name, come up with a flag, establish a new nation and a community, and then apply to become a member state of the Empire of Stomaria? And I would go, months without end of just announcing all these new member states coming and joining the Empire of Stomaria. But it doesn't mean anything because they're only representing themselves. And unfortunately, this is what Mika and Alexander are doing. They're simply representing themselves, even though that they have member state status in the sense that they are representing nations or communities in theory within the Empire of Stomaria. It's very hollow because nothing's there. There is no community, there is no infrastructure, there is no nation that these individuals are representing. And I don't say this with malice, I don't say it with vitriol or anything like that. I genuinely like Alexander and I want him to play an active role within the Empire of Stomaria going forward. But I just don't think it can be done through Moorland because it's obviously too much of a demand on his time to try to establish an entity within the Empire of Stomaria. I think it would be far better if Alexander simply became a Lord of Stomaria full time and was governing a particular province on our behalf. I think that will be the way forward. With Mika, I honestly couldn't say because we've not had any conversations with Mika for, well, however long it's been, since October 2021. So I don't think that's going to be, I don't think there's anything that we can do about that one. But for all that said, both of these individuals have remained steadfast supporters of Stomaria in the sense that they have remained Stomarian citizens throughout the entire period. But that is simply not good enough by itself, because as I say, we have many citizens who have joined before either Mika or Alexander and have remained citizens themselves, and they are more active than Mika and Alexander, and they do not represent member states. They are not asking for a seat at the table, if you like. They're not expecting special treatment because they came up with a flag and a name, and they wanted to be integrated into the Empire of Stomaria in some way. So I think with all of that said, I think the main point that I wanted to drive home is that just because we have a member state, just because someone might be successful in becoming a member state, a nation or a community that applies, that doesn't mean that we are simply going to hang on to nations and communities if we don't think they're going to continue to add value to the wider Stomarian community. And it really is as simple as that. I mean, it's the unofficial mantra of the Empire of Stomaria, in that what benefit is there to us? What benefit is there for Norwick being a member state of the Empire of Stomaria? What benefit is there with Moorland being a member state of the Empire of Stomaria? Now, as I say, you could argue that the addition of a flag on the website just makes it look like it's bigger than it actually is. But to me, it just rings hollow. And I dislike the idea of misleading people in the sense that I don't want to give the impression that we're larger or more successful than we actually are. Because if something happens, I'm happy to report it. Good or bad, I've always reported in some form or another through a video or a post any sort of developments or setbacks that the Empire of Stomaria has had. We have had ups and we have had downs throughout the many years that we've been pushing forward with this vision of ours. But I don't want to give people false impressions, and I think the problem with Moorland and Norwick being member states of the Empire of Stomaria is that it does give a false impression, because they're not only not communities and not nations as far as we're concerned, but they're not even governed by people who have an active interest in their development. And so it is what it is on that front. So I do hope that both remain citizens. I do hope that eventually they become more active within the Empire of Stomaria as private citizens. But beyond that, I think I just want to reiterate the point that for those who do wish to apply to become member states of the Empire, we will be monitoring progress. We will be seeing how far that each of these member states come, and we will be taking notes as to whether or not we think they're going to continue to be a good fit for the Empire. So with all of that said, if you did want to become a part of the Stomarian community, then please feel free to do so through our Patreon campaign, the link of which you can find in the description below as always. But otherwise, if you did enjoy this video, then please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.